Paul Rusesabagina is the hero in the Oscar-nominated film Hotel Rwanda, which told the story of his efforts to save Hutu and Tutsi refugees during the 1994 Rwanda genocide. But today he's awaiting trial in Kigali, charged with sponsoring rebel groups and terrorism-related offenses. Civil rights groups and those who know him say the circumstances of his arrest and detention are questionable. Rusesabagina says he was invited by a friend to speak in Burundi, but when he boarded a private jet in Dubai, he was instead flown to Kigali and arrested.
Having known Paul for almost 15 years, there's not the slightest chance he would have gone to Rwanda voluntarily, because he knew something exactly like this would happen to him if he went to Rwanda voluntarily.
Endless believes the process was illegal.
This was clearly illegal, whether you want to call it extraordinary rendition, kidnapping, illegal abduction. When a person gets on a plane and it is under a false pretense with the intention of bringing them somewhere to arrest them, that is internationally an illegal process to bring that person to the country.
But Rwandan President Paul Kagame defends Rusesabagina's detention.
There was no kidnap, there was no any wrongdoing in the process of his getting here. He got here on the basis of what he believed and wanted to do.
Critics say the arrest stems from Rusesabagina's opposition to President Kagame. The government maintains it is because of his work with the Rwanda Movement for Democratic Change, an opposition party that he co-founded and which has been linked to acts of violence and terrorism. Rusesabagina doesn't deny crimes were committed, but insists he was not involved and that he is only interested in diplomacy. Critics also say so far, Rusesabagina has not been allowed to choose his own lawyer and has been denied bail. And legal experts say they want to monitor the trial.
One of the main reasons that we monitor trials is to shine a light, to remind governments of their obligations to respect fundamental, rights, including the right to choose a lawyer of one's choice, as well as numerous other rights.
There are very concerning trends, some of them exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, in terms of the instrumentalization of courts against the vulnerable or those who criticize the government. But the hope is that trial monitoring, whether in the moment or by virtue of the record that it creates, can induce governments to abide by their international obligations.
While there are troubling questions about Rusesabagina's detention, he may still get a fair trial, according to international politics professor Phil Clark.
There is often a misconception about the Rwandan judiciary that it is simply the lapdog of Kagame's executive. And I think what we've seen in the last 10 years is something very different happen. We've actually seen a very independent judiciary begin to rise up in Rwanda, often handing down judgments contrary to the wishes of the national executive.
But Endless and other Rusesabagina supporters disagree and remain very concerned about his fate in a Rwandan courtroom. Salam Solomon, VOA News, Washington.